Alrighty, welcome back to another unboxing video. Matt is the man, I, Cameron, am the voice. Let's get started. These are Rasbora rubro dorsalis, the cherry spot Rasbora. These come from northern Thailand. They're another small fish, gets a little over an inch maximum size. Micro predator, they're tiny little carnivores eating tiny little invertebrates, little bits of meat that they can find around their habitat. I really like these guys because both you don't really see them all that often, as well as they're a bit more of an active nano fish. No offense to some of the synodonous or other guys you'll see, but they don't move around quite as much. These guys definitely have a little bit more activity to them, and especially as they mature, even though they won't get that big, the red on the tail is super enticing. Just a really pretty little flash of color. Do inhabit a lot of the top part of the aquarium, so they're not going to bother anyone down at the bottom, but just a really neat little fish. Really like the color pops on these guys, and I wish that you would see them a bit more often in the trade. This is Dario SP, the black tiger baddis, not to be confused with the flame baddis, Dario hysignon. This guy is a very pretty little fish, comes from Burma, gets maximum size of a little over an inch for a big, beautiful male. Female's a tiny bit smaller, a little bit less flashy. These are micro predators and they're wonderful little nano fish. You will read a lot of misconceptions about baddis, like they only eat live food. Ours sure don't, because they just starve to death. We feed them a lot of baby brine shrimp or rotifers, or admittedly, yes, very tiny foods here, but small frozen bits. This is a wonderful fish. Males set up little territories. You could easily have a couple of them in our experience in, say, like a 10-gallon, so long as it has nice delineated territories. And then a couple females per male. It's a wonderful little fish. Males may spar, but not going to cause any serious damage. Really pretty little fish. Males get some really nice tiger striping and red to them. Alright, next up. It's another tiny fish from Southeast Asia. Who could have guessed? These are really cool. These are Endostomous crocodilis, the crocodile toothpick fish, sometimes also called a stickleback. I believe they're in that same order, if I'm remembering rightly. So a really neat little fish, very deliberate swimmers that actually spend a ton of time trawling around the bottom. They remind me of tiny little tanks with little treads just kind of puttering around down there. These will also get right around an inch long, and much like the baddis that we mentioned before, these are a micro predator. We've had the best luck feeding them itty bitty foodstuffs here, like frozen baby brine shrimp. Even something like Daphne is going to be a little bit too big for these guys, so you definitely want to make sure to keep them with something that won't outcompete them. They have actually been bred in captivity, interestingly enough. I guess there's some dimorphism, if I'm remembering rightly. It's kind of in the body shape. Here you can see them, again, just kind of sitting or just very slowly, almost crawling around the bottom. They're super cute little fish, very interesting, just maybe not the best for a beginner. They do also like to be kept in groups, so make sure to have a decent number of them as well. Alright, next up on the docket is a really neat fish. These are Synodonous SP1. Sometimes also called the bumblebee synodonous. It's a wonderful little fish. As you can see, very small, very cute. These come from Nigeria. They'll max out at around 2 inches long. It's where the synodonous part of the name comes from. They're quite small little guys. As you can see, sometimes have some nice activity. I'm not going to say that they do that all the time in the tank, but they're awfully fun to watch, as well as preferably would be kept in as large a group as possible. They are omnivores. They'll eat just kind of a little bit of everything. They're not very picky, I've found. They have even been spawned in captivity, which is interesting. Not a lot of synodonous, not a lot of synodonous keepers can claim that. Has been done, it seems like, with small spawning mops set in kind of cups in the aquarium, is something I learned from a talk on synodonous. But they're really neat fish, and they're not Batesii. Sometimes they'll be described or sold as Synodonous Batesii. It is a different fish. It is different from Synodontis Batesii, if I'm remembering rightly. But both of those get larger. These do stay that smaller 2-inch size, but just a really cool little bottom feeder. let's see what Matt has next. It's a very cool little tetra. These are the blue emperor tetras, Impictus cur-eye, sometimes called Carrie. Not sure who that's named after, so I'm just going to kind of say cur-eye or blue emperor. It's just how I always say it. These guys are very neat. They naturally would occur in Brazil, which these are tank raised. Actually haven't seen these wild caught. It'd be awfully interesting. They'll hit about 2 inches in length, and unlike some of their other imperially, there we go, that's the word I'm looking for, imperially named cousins, these do stay a little smaller. They'll almost hit 2 inches, and they don't quite have some of the finnage that the other emperors will have. These are a little micro predator. They appreciate a bit more protein in their diet, but they're a beautiful little tetra, very peaceful in my experience, especially if you have a group of at least 6 to 8. And I know you're not always seeing it constantly. There's some beautiful photos of this online. When the light catches males just right, you'll see that beautiful blue-purple flash. Great little fish for smaller tanks especially. I just haven't had any problems with them. And they do get that really nice blue to them that you won't always see, or at least you won't see as much on a fish that's not a neon or cardinal or green neon tetra. So just a really cool fish. If you're looking to start off by spawning an easier tetra, I'd say these would be one of my go-tos. Nothing super crazy involved there. Alright, next up we'll see what we got. Ooh, there we go. These are very pretty. These are wild-caught Doris adolfoi. These naturally occur in Brazil. There are records of them coming from Colombia that are unsubstantiated at this point. Like a lot of other kind of medium-sized cories, they'll get a little over 2 inches in length. Like a lot of cories, they are going to be omnivores with a lean for carnivory, preferably fed a lot of smaller foodstuffs like daphnia or a high-quality sinking pellet they can dig into the sand and eat. I really like this fish just because I took a long time to find them personally years ago. They're very pretty, nice white body, nice dark stripe, nice orange saddle. It's a very, very pretty cory that normally isn't too hard to find or too expensive, and these have some good size to them. Anecdotally, I'll also see them labeled sometimes as duplicarius, or see people fighting over whether a fish is adolfoi or duplicarius without knowing the catch location. Supposedly there's differences in the serrations on the pectoral spines. I did some digging and it seems like those differences are actually quite minute, so unless you have a really good eye or a microscope, it might be a little harder than you think to tell them apart. But at any rate, very, very pretty little cory, very popular in discus setups for whatever reason I found too. Next up, we'll veer into something completely different. These are Cinno tilapia zebroides. The orange back from Kabwe come from Mozambique in Lake Malawi. This is a very pretty little mbuna. It'll get around 4 inches, would be a very large male, but beautiful fish once it settles in. It'll have nice kind of pale bluish with black stripes, and then males get this beautiful, stunning orange on the back to highlight everything. It's not particularly aggressive either, so it's good for more laid-back tanks. I've even seen it sometimes in slightly feistier, like Happen Peacock setups without too much of an issue. Definitely takes a little bit of time to get in there and show its true colors, but it's a great looking fish. These are also omnivores that can have a little bit more protein in their diet than some mbunas. I do frequently see on Facebook or other groups that all mbunas must have only vegetable matter or they'll all die, whereas it's more nuanced than that. There are an awful lot of mbuna and some of the diets are going to be different, so always make sure to research the particular fish in the category that you're looking to purchase before taking it home, just to make sure everyone's diet's covered, because while bloating is bad, you also want to make sure to feed everyone correctly. Alright, let's see what else we got. Another Rift Lake cichlid. This is Scifo tilapia gibberosa, sometimes it's collectively called a frontosa, even though that's not its species name. This particular variety is from Mpimbwe in Zambia in Lake Tanganyika. Like most frontosas, you're going to get some beautiful black and white with blue highlights. These guys will get large, about 10 inches or so in captivity, although it will take them a tremendously long time to get there. They're a pretty slow-growing predator that in nature would be pretty deep down in the lake that would also occur in groups. This variety in particular is really nice because it gets this iridescent blue sheen throughout the body, although of course, like a lot of slow-growing Tanganyikans, it's going to take a little bit of time for it to show. Given that they do like to be kept in groups, and given that they do get large, you will definitely want to have a big tank for these long term. It's easy to say, I'll get a bigger tank later, and then that bigger tank never comes. This will also allow them to grow to their full extent, as well as, in my opinion, just get a better display. These guys, as I mentioned, are predators. They are carnivores. You just don't want to keep them with anything too boisterous that'll either steal the food or beat on them too badly, because they're kind of a gentle giant. Sturdy, but still maybe not the most domineering fish. Really, really cool, though, once it settles in and in the right type of setup. Okay, what's next? Oh, sweet, it's mudfish. This is Fractalinus and sorghi, sometimes also called the hinge mouth. Oh boy, is it hard to find information on this fish, so I'm going to kind of spit out what I've found in my now several months of keeping them. These guys would naturally occur in the Congo, out of Nigeria. They can grow, it seems like, up to 7 inches long. My biggest one at home is probably about 5.5 inches. They're very slow, they're very peaceful, and they seem to be detritivores, just kind of lurking in, as the name would indicate, mud, in nature, eaten, I'm going to presume, small plant bits, small bits of insects. They're a very weird fish. I'll be completely honest, I have a bunch of them in a 10-gallon right now, and they don't seem to really move, ever. And they also hide in or around things. So you always got to question whether they're still there, and truthfully I haven't really seen them eat all that much. But they are totally fine with very small fish. I'm talking guys less than 1 inch long that I'm currently keeping with because I ran out of tank space. It's a very, very cool fish. You're just not going to see that body shape or those kind of movements anywhere else, but it's definitely an odd animal. Definitely something to seek out if you have the right environment with it. You don't want to keep anything too fast with them because it'll probably starve, I would assume. Mine just seem to hide so much and eat so slowly that a lot of it's speculation, and unfortunately you don't see a lot of data on these guys either as good guideposts. But at any rate, a really cool fish that you don't see all the time. Okay, last but not least, something a little different. This is the first betta that we featured in one of our unboxing videos. This is a male alien blue betta. Aliens are wild hybrids, wild type hybrids of a couple of different species in the splendens complex, probably Mahachiensis, X splendens, X embellus. And as you can see, they do look quite a bit different and act a bit different than your average betta. However, they still can be a really cool kind of focal point with a lot of personality. By the way, stay tuned. Shameless pitch that we're going to have a betta feature video coming up soon. This guy, like most bettas, you will want to keep warm. You will want to have, a slow-moving filter on this guy, as well as make sure there's a tight-fitting lid so this fella can't jump out. They definitely act a bit more wild than your average betta, but they're a very interesting animal.